A king so powerful, even other kings bowed before him. A ruler who commanded the largest cavalry in West Africa. An empire so vast, it stretched across what we now call Nigeria, Benin, and Togo. Yet, most people have never heard his name. This is the story of the Alaafin of Oyo, the emperor who made European colonizers tremble. But here's what makes this fascinating. The Alaafin wasn't just a political leader. He was considered a divine being, a direct descendant of Oduduwa, the creator of the earth in Yoruba mythology. Imagine a leader who is both your president and your god. That's the kind of power we're talking about. By the 17th century, under rulers like Alaafin of Oyo, yes, a female Alaafin who disguised herself as a man to rule, and later Alaafin of Oyo, Oyo had become the most dominant force in West Africa. The military machine. But how did the Alaafin maintain control over such a massive territory? 2 words: military dominance. The Oyo Empire possessed the most feared cavalry in West African history. While other kingdoms fought on foot, Oyo warriors charged into battle on horseback, armed with swords, spears, and later, firearms obtained through trade with Europeans. Picture this: thousands of horsemen thundering across the savannah, dust clouds rising, the ground shaking beneath their hoofs. Enemy kingdoms didn't stand a chance. But it wasn't just brute force. The Alaafin employed a brilliant administrative system. He appointed provincial governors called Ajio to oversee conquered territories, ensuring loyalty and collecting tributes. Vassal states like the Kingdom of Dahomey, yes, the same Dahomey we've covered before, paid annual tributes to Oyo or faced military annihilation. And here's something wild: the Alaafin controlled the trans-Saharan and Atlantic trade routes. We're talking about trade in gold, ivory, textiles, and yes, enslaved people. This made Oyo incredibly wealthy. The Alaafin's palace was filled with treasures that would make European monarchs jealous. European traders who visited Oyo in the 18th century wrote in awe about the grandeur of the capital city, Old Oyo, or Oyo. They described massive walls, bustling markets, and a palace so large, it was practically a city within a city. The divine power and checks. Think about that. Even a god king could be removed if he failed his people. It was a system of checks and balances that existed centuries before modern democracy. But as you might expect, this power dynamic created tension, and that tension would eventually tear the empire apart. The peak of power. The Oyo Empire reached its peak in the 18th century under leaders like Alaafin of Oyo. At this point, Oyo's influence stretched over 150,000 square kilometers. They controlled trade routes, collected tributes from dozens of vassal states, and maintained diplomatic relationships with European powers. The Alaafin's court was a center of art, music, and culture. Master drummers, weavers, blacksmiths, and sculptors all served the palace. The famous Yoruba talking drums. They were perfected in the Alaafin's court. But here's what's truly remarkable: Oyo achieved all of this without a written language. Everything, laws, history, trade agreements, was preserved through oral tradition, proverbs, and the Ifo divination system. This wasn't just an empire. It was a civilization. The four. But as the saying goes, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. By the late 18th century, cracks began to appear in the empire. The very system that made Oyo strong, its reliance on military might and tribute, became its weakness. First, there was internal conflict. The Basharan Goho seized power and effectively controlled several Alaafins, even executing some who opposed him. This created instability and weakened central authority. Second, vassal states began to rebel. Dahomey, tired of paying tribute, declared independence. Without Oyo's cavalry to enforce control, other territories followed. Third, and this is critical, the abolition of the Atlantic slave trade in the early 19th century devastated Oyo's economy. The empire had become dependent on this trade, and when it dried up, so did their wealth. Finally, the Fulani Jihad from the north brought Muslim cavalry forces that rivaled Oyo's military power. In 1835, Old Oyo was abandoned, and the remnants of the empire relocated south to the current city of Oyo. The age of the all-powerful Alaafin was over, or was it? Today, the title of Alaafin still exists. The current Alaafin of Oyo remains a revered traditional ruler in Nigeria, though without the political power of his ancestors. But make no mistake, the legacy of the Oyo Empire lives on. It shaped Yoruba identity, influenced modern Nigerian governance, and proved that African civilizations were just as sophisticated, powerful, and complex as any in Europe or Asia. So why don't we hear about the Alaafin in mainstream history? That's a question worth asking. Here's what I want you to take away from this: the story of Africa is not one of weakness or waiting to be discovered. It's a story of emperors, warriors, scholars, and kingdoms that rose and fell like waves on the ocean of time. The Alaafin of Oyo was one of Africa's most powerful kings, and now, you know his story. If this video opened your eyes to African history you never learned in school, smash that like button and subscribe to historical facts and knowledge for more untold stories. Drop a comment below: which African empire should we cover next? The Benin Empire, the Kingdom, the Ashanti Kingdom? Let me know. And don't forget, hit that notification bell so you never miss our next journey into the past. Until next time, keep discovering the truth. Peace.